Since the beginning of last regular season, the New York Rangers have been an incredibly busy and active team, whether that's been making some trades, signings in free agency, or of course, changing up the coaching staff a bit, as well as they ended up, of course, parting ways with former head coach Peter Laviolette, and they picked up the former Pittsburgh Penguins head coach in Mike Sullivan. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at another New York Rangers projected lineup to begin the 2025-26 season for opening night to begin this upcoming regular season. So we're going to take a look at this projected lineup from the Hockey Writers. And of course, yesterday, I did kind of come out with my predicted lineup for the New York Rangers to begin the season. And I'm going to be honest, it is fairly different from this one here. So they're kind of giving their projection on this. The Hockey Writers are on the New York Rangers lineup for opening night. And I also, like I said in yesterday's video, gave mine, which it was a full-on kind of what I think is going to happen. Not necessarily what I want to see, but what I think Mike Sullivan might end up deciding to do with the roster as things kind of stand right now. So if you haven't checked that video out already, definitely go check it out. I'll have it linked at the end of this video. But let's take a look at the Hockey Writers projected lineup for the New York Rangers to begin this upcoming regular season. So let's start off here by taking a look at the top forward line they have, and that, of course, consists of Artemi Panarin, JT Miller, and Alexis Lafreniere, which I think this definitely could be a pretty intriguing line to put together. With Mike Sullivan coming in now, it definitely is possible that, with his kind of new mindset coming in there, with the new coaching staff, maybe they have a different kind of vision for this kind of top six of the Rangers, and maybe they want to switch things up there and, not go with what we've kind of seen a lot over the past few years now with Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere. Maybe they want to switch things up there and see, Panarin, JT, and Lafreniere, which I don't hate at all. With this line, you basically have, obviously, Panarin. We know what he brings there, that elite, dynamic, offensive threat there, the great playmaker, good goal scorer as well, just overall an amazing offensive threat. Then you've got JT Miller, that great two-way guy who brings some toughness, physicality to go alongside, Panarin, who's not the most physical guy, who's not the toughest player in the world, who's also not a great defensive winger. So having a guy like JT alongside him, I think, is kind of a nice compliment there, who can also, of course, be a great kind of, offensive threat alongside Panarin as well. JT's great two ways. And then you also got Lafreniere, who definitely can contribute on both sides of the ice as well, but also is going to bring a bit of physicality. So I don't mind this line at all there. You got a bit of toughness there with JT and a bit from Lafreniere, of course. You've got that offensive punch there with all three of these guys being able to put up, for Panarin's sake, probably around that 100 kind of point mark possibly. Then for JT Miller, he can definitely be a point per game kind of plus player. And then you got Lafreniere, who maybe this upcoming season will take another final big step there in his game, which, we didn't quite see last season there. He kind of, maybe took a bit of a step back from the previous season, of course, but maybe this year we can see him take another step forward and maybe put up 65, 70 points there alongside guys like JT and Panarin. So we'll have to wait and see, but I definitely would not mind seeing this lineup be a combination there, under the new coaching staff of Mike Sullivan and his crew. And next up here, we've got for line 2, Will Cuylle, Vincent Trocheck, and Gabe Perreault. I think this lineup combination is really nice because you have two really solid defensive forwards in Will Cuylle and Vincent Trocheck, who also have, a bit of grittiness, a bit of toughness to their game. We know Will Cuylle is a very physical player. Vincent Trocheck is quite physical and tough as well. So I think having those two kind of tougher, grittier players who have a really good defensive game, penalty killing type forwards to go alongside the inexperienced, not great defensive winger in Gabe Perreault, I think definitely makes a lot of sense there. So that in itself is quite nice. But offensively, I think this could definitely be a really great kind of combination here. You've got maybe more of kind of playmaker distributor in Gabe Perreault, of course. You've got that kind of net front presence there, the tough, guys going to be battling around the net there in Will Cuylle, who's a really nice goal scorer there, is a decent playmaker. And then you got Vincent Trocheck, who can do, a bit of both there as well. He can battle around the net there. He can, be a distributor, be a goal scorer. So I think this lineup combination could be pretty solid there. And, like I said, Vincent Trocheck and Cuylle going alongside the, inexperienced Gabe Perreault, who's obviously just no matter what, really not going to be a great defensive player, I think is kind of a pretty nice idea there to put two of the more stronger kind of defensive forwards alongside the probably a bit of a liability, possibly defensive winger in Gabe Perreault, as he is a rookie and obviously is going to make mistakes, which is expected of a rookie who is, potentially going to be, though, an elite offensive threat one day in the NHL. And this is where things get really interesting, as on the third line, they have Brett Berard, Mika Zibanejad down the middle, being that third line center alongside Taylor Radish as well. And first off, I do think Taylor Radish is going to get one of those third line wing spots. He got signed like a 2-year deal with like a $1.5 million cap hit per season. So my guess is he's going to be a third line player for this team. He's going to get one of those spots. And the other wing spot is probably going to be occupied by one of Gabe Perreault, Brendan Othmann, or Brett Berard, like it is in this scenario here where they have Brett Berard and Taylor Radish being that kind of wing duo, which I definitely think is possible, of course. And for Mika Zibanejad, this is definitely a player that I think is much kind of more suited to play wing at this point in his career. With what we saw from him last season there, he was a liability at moments at center, but once he got to wing there, he was around that kind of point per game mark. He started to play some much better hockey, especially down the stretch there. So I think keeping him on wing is what's best for this team. We're going to be able to hopefully get around a point per game player who's going to be able to be a plus defensive winger. Hopefully, maybe he can still kill some penalties here and there, but I just think at this point in his career, Mika Zibanejad is much more suited to be a winger, which is probably we're going to get the most out of him. And for the fourth line here, there are no surprises. This is exactly what I have been expecting for quite some time now and what I had in my predicted video yesterday. And that, of course, is Adam Edstrom, Sam Carrick, and Matt Rempe. We saw this quite a bit this past season, and I think we're going to see it once again for quite a bit of the season. I'm kind of assuming Matt Rempe, Sam Carrick, Edstrom there, they're going to all be three very physical, tough, gritty players out there. They're going to all bring some good energy as well. Edstrom, a little more of a kind of skilled guy compared to someone like Rempe, but all three of them can bring a lot of toughness, physicality, grit, some feistiness. They can all fight out there as well. They're all going to stick up for teammates. They're going to battle in the corners. They're going to just bring some intensity to the game, which I think this Rangers team has lacked at moments. So I think having a fourth line like this is exactly kind of what you want, especially in the regular season there. To get through the entire season, having a fourth line like this to bring the energy, the intensity, just to kind of fire guys up moments there. You have Matt Rempe, blasting around out there on the ice at home at MSG there. You got the crowd, going nuts, and Rempe just goes lay someone out there. The crowd goes nuts. Everyone's fired up now, right? Like, those kind of players are valuable to have. So I think this fourth line, although they may not be putting up some crazy offensive numbers, they should be able to hopefully hold their own defensively and also bring a lot of energy and physicality and toughness and intensity to the game, which I definitely think this team could, of course, use more of. And now for the defense pairs, we have for the top one, of course, Gavrikov alongside Adam Fox. To me, this is what I'm kind of expecting. I want to see Adam Fox finally get that top kind of pairing caliber defenseman to go alongside him, because we haven't really quite seen that yet with him at the NHL level. You take a look at who he's been with over the past kind of few years there. For the most part, it's been Ryan Lindgren, who I think at moments sure has been for sure a top 4 caliber defenseman, but especially kind of as of late, last season there and even kind of the season before that, things just weren't going too phenomenal for Ryan Lindgren there. So I think at this point right now, Lindgren leaving, of course, and Foxy kind of getting a new partner in Gavrikov is a humongous upgrade, and I really am hopeful that we're going to see this be one of the top pairs in the entire NHL, because Gavrikov is one of the better shutdown defensemen in the entire NHL, and you have him going alongside one of the just overall best defensemen, like still a top 5 caliber defenseman in the entire NHL, alongside a top 10 or at least, like top 15 defensive defenseman in the entire league. So I think this could be one of the top pairs in the entire NHL and truly could be kind of game-changing for this Rangers team. And now for the second pair, they have Carson Soucy alongside Will Borgen. I'm going to be honest, I don't love this pair, but I do think it is quite realistic and possible. Carson Soucy is not going to be as bad as he was last season there. I just can't see that happening. Once he was traded by the Rangers from the Canucks, he obviously didn't play great, but there weren't many players on this team that were necessarily playing great, especially on the defensive side of things. So I think with Borgen coming in there, him having a full offseason as well with this team, him and Soucy definitely could be a decent pair. I like Will Borgen quite a bit there. I think he has been a pretty big plus for this team with a nice pickup. Also got a pretty nice contract as well. I think, fairly pretty good value there for the team, for the Rangers, when you consider what other contracts were handed out, especially in this past free agency. But I do have a little bit of a question on kind of how well this is going to be as a second pair in general, because, you know, Borgen is, for me, a bit of a lower tier kind of second pairing guy still, and Soucy is more of a third pairing kind of guy. So I kind of question this kind of setup here. I would switch things around a little bit personally from this, but I still think Borgen and, you know, Soucy alongside each other hopefully wouldn't be too bad of a defense pair. And now we've got a third pair that actually really intrigues me quite a bit there, and I would be really excited to see possibly play alongside each other. And that is on the left side, Braden Schneider, with on the right side, Scott Morrow, which I honestly really don't mind at all. Scott is a really solid kind of two-way guy there. Good puck mover, solid skater, decent size there. Seems like a pretty solid kind of two-way defenseman, but has put up some, you know, kind of all right point totals at the NHL level already in his limited sample size as a defenseman. But then you've got Braden Schneider, who is normally on the right side, shifting over to the left side there, and he is more of the kind of, you know, shutdown, more defensive defenseman there, more of the kind of, you know, just big, tough, physical shutdown guy, whereas you have that maybe a little more of kind of offensive guy, although I would say a solid two-way guy. Definitely needs to work on his defensive game, Scott Morrow, but, you know, more of a solid two-way guy, so maybe that could be a pretty solid third pair. Like I said, I kind of question Soucy on the second pair there. I don't love that idea. I would personally kind of probably swap Soucy and Schneider and put Schneider up on that second pair on the left side alongside Borgen, and then go Soucy and Morrow. But that's just me, and maybe, you know, this could work out better. Who knows? But either way, you know, I don't mind these pairs at all, and I do really hope we see Scott Morrow actually in the lineup there. But I just wonder whether or not this team would rather, like McSullivan, would rather go with the more kind of veteran options there with a kind of like a Soucy or an Urhovac in 9 and over someone like a Scott Morrow to begin the upcoming season. But I definitely am excited to see what a guy like Scott can possibly do with this team, as he is a pretty highly rated prospect and definitely still has a lot more room to grow and get even better. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely don't forget to click that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content, as I do post every single day a video at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And also, definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on today's video and on these kind of pairs, defense pairs, forward lines. What are your thoughts? What would you change? What do you like? You know, in the comment section down below. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.